Hello, hello. Welcome to Tech Ascent, the podcast where we dive into the trends, strategies, and success stories that are reshaping the tech landscape as we know it today. I'm your host, Oliver Clingain. I'm also the founder of Recession, the premier business development partner within tech. Today, we're joined by Vadim Peskov, the co-founder and CEO of Diffco. Vadim, welcome to the show.
Thanks for inviting. Pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on. I appreciate you accepting the invite. Would you mind telling the audience a little bit about what you do as well as what you do with Diffco?
Yeah, absolutely. We try to make things a little bit more entertainment wise as well. My name is Vadim, and I'm building a business that named Diffco. We're doing a complex software development project, mostly for growth stage startups and mid-sized enterprises. Beside this, I'm also advisor with Alchemist Accelerator and help many founders, typically in AI and cybersecurity, with investments and as well as with advisory side of things.
Very cool, very cool. And we'll go down a little bit of a rabbit hole about your entrepreneurial journey before we talk about some other topics. But what made you want to kind of start this business with Diffco?
Oh, it was 2008, and we decided that it was a good idea to start a business. It ended up being, by end of the day, a good decision. In reality, of 2008 was absolutely the stupidest thing that we can ever done. But I like to experiment, so was one of the experiments that turned up being a good success here.
Nice, nice. And I feel like that's something along a lot of entrepreneurs' journeys they pick up. There's always some sort of element of risk. Obviously, starting a company in 2008, a bit risky. What other kind of big risks have you taken over the past 17 years while you've been building Diffco?
This was too long. Yeah, so I think, in reality, the risk taking is the part of the job. It's basically, it should be in the description of the job, that in the top line, because the business is always about experiments and your ability to run those experiments as quickly as you can. Because by the end of the day, winning the person that actually doing more experiments and succeeding with some of them, and in some of cases, it is a question of luck, and in many cases, it's a question of persistency. But in reality, the true winners is just people who iterate more. And we had many successes and failures along those lines. I think reality is we shifted many times market-wise, technology-wise, approaches in the development, clientele. Like, a lot of things changed. And let me just give you one thing. 8 years ago, it was almost 9 years ago, we started with a simple thing that was really complex back then, the computer vision and machine learning. And back then it was completely different. And right now you can build those things probably in a minutes, or at least in days, comparing to what we had to do in 2017, 2018, etc., and early on. So those examples was really risky, because we thought it will work. In reality, it worked only partially. It was not perfect, but I think those risks is actually allowed us to be where we right now with the progress. Because if we would be hey, let's make a safer approach to things, we would be sitting probably doing some different work there. So I think experiments and risk is what you need to do basically in this job.
100%, 100%. And over the past 17 years, obviously there's been a lot of changes. You mentioned some of the challenges growing the business. Being in the tech space, being a software development company, what are some of the more recent changes you would say you've seen in the tech space?
I probably would not surprise anyone by telling that AI is now shifting how we can do things and what we can do. Because the reality is, in many cases, right now, a lot of people would expect us hey, we can build a application with AI in 5 minutes using different tools. The hard truth is, hey, yeah, you can build the toy apps. You cannot build the production things. And you can accelerate the building of production things, but not yet in a way that a lot of fancy tools will tell you like, hey, yeah, take a Figma file, put it in AI, and we'll spin up the app. It will work partially, but the truth is you probably don't want to use this in production, especially if it's regulated space, if it's like healthcare, finance, or life science. You don't want to have those experiments there because by the end of the day, it will have some error rates. And right now, error rates with AI is like, even on the best models, at least 5%, and completely unacceptable for those industries and in many production systems. So I think the challenge and the core functionality there is to make sure that wherever you do this as the right approach, where you educate and give the clear answer, like what is possible to do with those things and what is not possible. And I think understanding those limitations and not over promising, but believing that things will improve, I think this is the key.
No doubt, no doubt. And being in the software space, obviously, with the big influx of AI, do you see it as more of an opportunity? Do you see it as a threat to what you're building? What's your perspective on it?
I don't see it as a threat at all, but I see this as a wonderful opportunity for us to build more stuff, build it quicker, and build it cheaper. In the same term, I think the important to understand what you're building and how, because I think by the end of the day, having the better tool doesn't guarantee you that you will build a better solution. I mean, monkey with a better tool is still a monkey. So by the end of the day, it's a question of like, can you take the right tool and bring it to a senior level engineers that can make it work? Because the true question is like, if you understand the output of the system, and by the way, this is like was true for a long time, and it's just like a different application of the same thing. But if you understand what the tool is actually providing you as a result, you can make it that you can build things faster. So I think this is the key limitation that you need to understand. And if you do, you're in a good spot. You can move things faster. But if you a junior developer that believe you will build the same level as a senior architects, you like probably run right now. Again, maybe it will change, but still the core question is AI will not replace humans. AI will enhance humans and will allow humans that know AI replace humans that doesn't really know AI.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of to elevate your staff, not necessarily replace them. I like that. And as the CEO, how are you evaluating where AI fits, where it doesn't fit within your own business?
You experiment. By the end of the day, it's really damn simple. You play with the things by yourself. You try to implement things. You fail, obviously sometimes, but you learn and you basically go to the first principle. Because like the truth is, if you do not understand how the architecture works, especially like if you're a tech company, like again, if you're a healthcare company and you're using this to enhance some things, it's like, okay, it's a different story. But if you're a tech company and you're a technological founder, and even if you're not a tech person, you need to understand those things. It's not complicated. Like, again, I'm not saying that you need to start coding right away. It's probably not necessary in many cases, but at least understanding the logic and architecture is really important. And I think right now we're in a space where we need to understand this to make it better. And we will not be allowing the tools to basically rule us. So we need to not become a prisoners of the tool and following what the tool telling us to do. We need to understand how to use this. So I think this is the key question for the founders and CEOs and C levels and VP levels, but by the end of the day, anyone, to really understand how this works. Because in many cases, people would be like, oh, it will spill up the magic answer for me, and I have no understanding why it's doing this. And by the end of the day, it's like, hey, like it is a simple logic that it follows. Here's the things that you need to do to improve this, and here's things that you can do to fail. So I was like, understand this, and again, do not ignore those things.
Yeah, yeah. And being a CEO of Diffco, Vadim, how are you going about ignoring the noise of AI, but also finding out what's actually effective? How are you going about finding the useful nuggets of information?
This is a really good question. To be honest, I think even if you filter all the noise, it's still an illusion that you filter all the noise. So again, I stopped reading a lot of tech websites, tech new websites, because a lot of noise there. Sometimes still open things and check, but mostly what I'm trying to do is go on some subscriptions, email services for some people that creating those sort of stuff and reading some of those. Still, it is a lot of those things, so it's not really making a lot of sense to read all of those things. So I think it's the truth is somewhere in between. So you need to again probably do some combination of those and really understand what is actually important for you, and just probably being on Twitter, X, and just following some folks that you believe is having a good feed there. And the another thing is not looking for the easy pass. I think this is the key, because no one will give you all the information that you need to know for yourself. Each experience is different. Each approach is different. So I think we just need to don't have an illusion that we'll have all the answers somewhere like a TechCrunch or some other platforms. I think we need to be aware that we need to experiment with those things, and we need to find the best for ourselves. And again, by the way, those things will change. So it's not constant things. So it's, again, trusting one source, checking with another source, and playing with those tools. Because again, all those things by the end of the day is a click battle. Who will create the best title that will attract more people? And I think the truth is, if you see a lot of those news articles, that most popular is probably already too late there. So it's maybe the our right approach is actually talk to the people that actually implementing this and seeing what is going on in the startup area. Again, depends on the goal. For me, it's been mostly talking with the startups here in events in San Francisco and Bay Area. But for someone is maybe some other approaches. But this again, depending how deep you want to go and what the result you're trying to get from that.
For sure, for sure. And I really like the point you said is you've got to experiment. You've got to kind of play with the tools, even as something as simple as kind of a LLM, whether it be your ChatGPT, your Claude, your Perplexity. Everyone has their own different preferences of which one they prefer to use. Of course, each one has its own pros and cons, but at the end of the day, you're the one using it. So you've got to figure out what you like, what you don't like. So experimentation, that's a massive aspect. And as you're kind of building out your company within the software development space, what are some business use cases you've seen for AI? And obviously, we don't have a crystal ball here, Vadim, but where do you see it going in the next couple of years?
So this is two complicated and two completely different questions. So allow me to kind of like answer one by one.
Yeah, we'll pick them apart. Pick them apart.
So the first thing I think, the most important one, like how I see implications is basically the question of like trying new things and seeing what works, what doesn't work. Again, if we would had a conversation with you half a year ago, I would be telling you, hey, this is the tool, this is the approach, etc. Right now, what I see that many things is changing. And like, again, we're not using one model, we're using like 5 different ones. And sometimes you will use OpenAI, sometimes you will use Anthropic, sometimes you will use Gemini, and sometimes you will deploy on-prem depending on your goals there. And again, it doesn't really make sense to find the best model to do everything, as well as also a question of cost. Like previously, we had many models that cost really few tokens here and there, and now like we had those deep research models that doesn't really make sense to use for everything. Like, first of all, it's slower, but it best into achieving the specifics of the research that you need to do. So those reasoning models, again, eating is like amount of compute that's absolutely crazy. It not even compared to what you had probably like a year ago. So yeah, recently I did a couple of researches with all those models and run those in parallel. With average, I think it was like 20 or 30 minutes that those compute was like thinking, etc. And result is amazing, don't get me wrong. But the point is the cost of those computes is like really dramatic. And we need to be aware of that, again, those things is, again, will push along there. Answering the question of like where are we going with this, I think we still will start shifting into, and again, like in a, let's say, couple of year scale. So we'll start shifting into all those agentic models where we playing things that basically can replace some of the workforce approaches, and we'll start seeing a different pricing points for SaaS tools that not only so it's DocuSign that not only allow you to sign the documents, but now it's allowing you to check the documents, to craft the documents. Again, the only thing that you need to do is basically click accept. And in many cases, it maybe will be like it will accept this for you on your behalf, etc. Again, DocuSign is maybe a little bit more extensive example, but the point is those things make sense. Like again, right now, like you writing the drafts for emails using ChatGPT as example. But again, it was like a year ago. Now, like we have tools that like automatically think and like tell you like, hey, we already created the draft for this email. The only thing that you need to do is review and click. The next step will be probably sending this automatically and negotiating everything on your behalf. It's many tools right now that you can tell them, hey, clear my Friday, and it will send all the emails to all the parties that you had meetings with, and we'll reschedule everything. We'll call, we'll do all those things. It's possible today. It will not be perfect today. So I think we'll have a lot of examples of the folks that will be start partially replaced by AI. And in many cases, we want this because, to be honest, we want to have faster and better customer service interactions. So we want to have we want to have the examples that customer service representative can answer calls quicker and can actually provide us resolution. And yeah, I mean, it will be much cheaper than hiring people in Philippines or in different places there. And it will actually get the job done. Because in many cases, you cannot teach so many service representatives to fix your problems. Again, you can solve many problems with AI and much better.
For sure.
I think this is the key there.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love the perspective. And it does come back to what we talked about earlier is maybe it won't replace all customer service representatives, but the customer service reps that are using AI are going to elevate above the ones that aren't. And then that becomes the decision there.
I think, like, to be honest, again, it will be some areas where we'll be replacing humans. But in many cases, I think we can, at least in the short term, we can push this and make it more efficient for those humans that currently doing the job. But by end of the day, it's a question of can we actually make it in a way that we replace some white collar jobs there that will be completely eliminated by this thing. Because again, for example, cold calling or like service representative support staff, etc. I think we don't need humans there.
Hmm.
And like in
Yeah.
a lot of service jobs, actually, we don't need humans there. Again, I don't think AI will replace engineers. I don't think so. I think it will enhance engineers. But like call centers, probably yes.
Yeah, yeah. I can 100% see that, and I think it's inevitably going to get to that point as well. There's so many new, even just for outbound, AI SDRs rolling out, things like that.
And they're pretty good, by the way. Like
Hmm.
they're quite good in terms of the things that they do. And again, uh, in many cases, by the way, those AI agents is much better than average SDR.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, yeah, it's not perfect. It will do some crappy job in some percentage of the cases for sure, and some guardrails that you can put in place. But by the end of the day, the truth is, it will be better than most of the humans, and it will be probably at least 1/10 of the price, maybe less.
Hmm. Yep, yep. Yeah, no, it's weird how everything's moving. Software development, marketing, sales, customer support. It's all either being elevated or there's a pivot coming. But Vadim, speaking of the future, we can begin the wrap up here. What's the future for Diffco? Where do you see the company going? What's the mission? What's the goals at the minute?
I mean, mission is really damn simple. It's create better products for many companies as possible and help them uh, elevate this customer experience. I think this is the key, and have the right approach. There is a only question of like finding uh, the right tools to execute this. It's again, uh, our goal is to provide better customer experience. Again, we providing a commodity service, and by the end of the day, in many cases, but the whole truth is a question of like how we do this and what we do to make it that it will actually succeed. It's not the question of like writing a code 5% better, 10% better, having it priced cheaper here or there. It's a question of understanding the product and understanding the business. Because if we can understand the customer business better and we can recommend that to the customer to do this better in some way or another, we can actually end up in a much better situation for the customer because they will grow and we'll grow with them. By the end of the day, this is the thing that we're trying to do, and I think we're succeeding here.
Awesome, awesome. I love to hear it. But Vadim, that's all I got for you on the show today. I really appreciate you coming on. I know the audience does as well. And I'll be sure to tag you on LinkedIn as well as Diffco's website down in the description. But is there anywhere else you'd like people to go look for you?
Yeah, so feel free to find me on LinkedIn or X if you want to communicate and you have any startups in AI and cybersecurity space, or if it's anything that fintech related, also feel free to tag me and connect with me. Always constantly looking for startups in these areas. And yeah, so it's LinkedIn, email, and X is probably the best app.
Awesome, awesome. And like I said, I'll be sure to tag all that down in the description. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for taking the time to listen. And Vadim, thank you for taking the time to come on the show.
Absolutely love this. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.